Cyclone Yaas intensifies into a very severe cyclonic storm expected to make landfall around noon on Wednesday. Kolkata airport to suspend operations. Army deploys 17 cyclone relief columns in Bengal. Former Maharashtra Director General of Police Subodh Kumar Jaiswal appointed new CBI Director. He was the senior most among the three shortlisted candidates. India reports under 2 lakh daily COVID cases. Positivity rate dips to 9.54%. 3,511 deaths in 24 hours. Is the worst of the second wave over? External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is in the United States for bilateral talks and to discuss supply of COVID vaccines and vaccine raw material. Can the US plug India's vaccine supply gap? Indian students who have taken Covaxin and are looking to study abroad now in a fix, as Covaxin is not yet on the list of vaccines approved by WHO. Bharat Biotech says that the approval is expected by July to September. And after drone shots of the banks of river Ganga flooded with graves make international headlines, in UP's Prayagraj, shrouds are stripped over their coverings. Hello and welcome to NDTV 24/7. I'm Rohit Wellington. Let's begin with our top story. Cyclone Yaas has intensified into a very severe cyclonic storm and is headed to Odisha Bengal coast. Both the states are evacuating lakhs of people from coastal areas. In Kolkata, the airport will shut operations from 8:30 in the morning on Wednesday till 7:45 in the evening. Army has deployed 17 cyclone relief columns in Bengal. Army is out in 10 districts with rescue and relief equipment. Army is in the vulnerable districts of South 24 Parganas, East and West Medinipur. 9 columns in Kolkata are on standby. Army is equipped for casualty evacuation and road restoration. The columns have been deployed in Purulia, Birbhum, Bardhaman, Havra, Hugli, Nadia and North 24 Parganas.
Even
before Cyclone Yaas landed on the Odisha coast, 2 devastating weather formations in Bengal claimed 2 lives. Tornadoes, that's what Mamata Banerjee called them. This one at Chinsura in Hugli district around 5 this evening left 2 dead by electrocution. Another tornado at Halishahar in North 24 Parganas destroyed at least 40 homes. Paradeep today preparing for noon tomorrow. When Cyclone Yaas makes landfall between Balasore and Dhamra in Odisha. In Bengal, East Medinipur and Sundarbans in coastal South 24 Parganas will bear the brunt. Odisha says it is fully prepared. Mamata Banerjee will spend the night at the control room where the governor dropped in.
In every village close to the coast, we have a cyclone shelter where people can take shelter with all basic facilities.
Both Odisha and Bengal are evacuating over 8 lakh people from their coastlines. This with the help of state and national disaster relief forces, with the army on standby. Huge focus on dealing with the aftermath: fallen trees, power lines, phone lines and homes.
This time a special arrangement has been made, like, all the roadside trees which can, be, victim of storm. It is already being cut. Also, the state electricity department has taken a lot of steps so that people don't have to suffer power outrage for longer time, unlike last year.
Last year, Cyclone Amphan was unsparing, whether you lived in a kacha home or a skyscraper. Memories are fresh.
Actually, very scary. I stay in a high rise with 21 floors and I am on the 14th floor. Whole building was swaying to and fro.
Really?
Yeah.
Like an earthquake?
Like an earthquake.
বলছে তো মানে আগের বছরের থেকে এবছরে আরো ভয়ানক ঝড় হওয়ার সম্ভাবনা আছে শুনছি যেটা
ভয় লাগছে?
হ্যাঁ ভয় তো লাগবেই
Winds gusting at 185 kilometers per hour, extremely heavy rains and towering waves. As if that was not enough, a lunar high tide coinciding with Cyclone Yaas will make the target of zero casualty that much more of a challenge. With Manish Kumar in Digha and Saurabh Gupta, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
All right, the other big story, a new CBI director has been appointed. Former Maharashtra DGP Subodh Kumar Jaiswal will be taking over as the new CBI chief. He was the senior most among the three shortlisted candidates. Let's go across to Arvind Gunasekar for more on this. Arvind, tell us more about Mr. Jaiswal and also the selection process.
Rohit, Subodh Kumar Jaiswal, the 1985 batch Maharashtra cadre IPS officer, has been appointed as the CBI director for next 2 years. So Subodh Kumar Jaiswal, who was the former DGP of Maharashtra, is currently serving as the Director General for the Central Industrial Security Force. So the high-powered selection committee chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday met to select the next CBI director. Almost 109 names from 4 topmost senior batches were considered, of which 3 names were finalized, including Subodh Kumar Jaiswal, Kumar Rajesh Chandra, and also VSK Kaumudi. So the appointments committee, cabinet committee on appointments headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, considered the recommendation given by the high-powered committee. This particular ACC, the appointments cabinet committee consisting of Prime Minister and also the Home Minister, finally chose Subodh Kumar Jaiswal as the next CBI director. So the appointment has been signed by the ACC, and Subodh Kumar Jaiswal is shortly to take charge of the CBI director. What we are being told is that he will be taking charge of CBI director as early as tomorrow.
All right, Arvind Gunasekar, thanks very much for joining us with those details. India reported under 2 lakh new COVID cases for the first time since the 14th of April. So is the worst of COVID 2.0 over. 3,511 deaths were reported in the last 24 hours. That's a drop of around 21%. Tests in the last 24 hours were up 6%. Positivity rate was down 2% to about 9.54%. Vaccinations, however, according to the government data, is up 61%. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is in the United States, a visit that comes amid a severe vaccine shortage in India. Can the US plug India's vaccine supply gap, or are the major US manufacturers already committed to delivering millions of doses to other countries who had already placed orders earlier and through to 2023?
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar landed in New York and will become the first Indian cabinet member to hold in-person meetings with senior members of Joe Biden's administration in the United States. During his 5-day trip to the United States, Dr. S. Jaishankar is scheduled to touch down in Washington, D.C. to meet his U.S. counterpart, Secretary of State Antony Blinken. COVID-19 relief, efforts to strengthen the Quad, enhance UN cooperation, and a range of security and economic priorities are on top of that discussion agenda. This meeting on American soil will take place as India deals with a massive vaccine shortage. This rendezvous is also significant because it is taking place after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's controversial decision to let 29 Indian states individually buy vaccines from global producers, which boomeranged as global pharma giants like Pfizer and Moderna conveyed their preference to deal with a single entity. The Kerala Chief Minister wrote a letter to the Prime Minister asserting for one tender for vaccines. US vaccine companies are still in the process of fulfilling the requirements of their domestic population, including stockpiling inventory. The big uncertainty then is whether the US will emerge as the messiah and help supply 2.2 billion vaccine doses in 5 months. We'll see if Dr. Jaishankar brings us some good news in the days to come. With Vishnu Shom, this is Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.
Indian students admitted to international universities who got the Covaxin shot are now in a fix as Covaxin is not yet on the list of vaccines approved by WHO. Bharat Biotech says that it is expected to get the approval by July to September, but the clock is ticking. The academic year begins in September.
With the World Health Organization not approving of the wholly indigenous Indian-made Bharat Biotech's Covaxin for now, it is preventing Indian students from rejoining their universities abroad. But government sources say that Bharat Biotech has already submitted 90% of its required documentation to the World Health Organization for its emergency use listing. The remaining will be submitted by June 2021.
The Covaxin is not approved in the Canada.
Karan Patel is fully vaccinated against COVID, but it's Covaxin, not recognized by his university in Canada.
After taking the first dose of Covaxin, we came to know that the Covaxin is not approved in the Canada and it is not approved by the WHO also. Actually, we have invested so much money to study abroad and to study in the Canada, and due to that we are very concerned and we are very worried about our future.
My son, who's 19 years old, and he's just gotten admission in a good university in Ireland, and he's supposed to move to Ireland end of August. We got an email yesterday from the Irish University telling us that Covaxin is not an approved vaccine in Europe, so he will have to go through home quarantine rules if he's had Covaxin. So as parents, we are concerned, and we don't really know what is the status with Covaxin.
The reason several nations like the US, Canada, Australia, Ireland and the EU do not recognize Bharat Biotech's Covaxin on their approved list of vaccines for now. Universities like Harvard and Yale are allowing only those who've got vaccines approved by their countries or the World Health Organization.
Covaxin is not on the approved list, which in turn means that students will not be exempt from mandatory hotel quarantine. The only issue with this is that it is extremely expensive to be staying in a hotel for 14 days at a stretch.
Bharat Biotech's Covaxin has been subject to some controversy. The government faced criticism that it was rushing its clearance. Its authorization came before it completed its phase 3 trials. While the phase 3 data is out now, it is however not yet peer-reviewed. In Delhi with camera person Sushil Rathi, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
The flow of unidentified bodies of suspected COVID victims in the Ganga over the past many weeks has shocked and traumatized India and made international headlines, as have reports of mass graves along the river with disturbing panoramic top-angle shots of orange-colored graves stark against the river's white sandbanks going viral. After a huge outrage across the country, officials in UP are acting. Their solution? It's a quick fix one. Remove the saffron shrouds of the graves so that they are not noticeable from afar.
The UP government's version of a cleanup by this Ganga Ghat in Prayagraj, formerly Allahabad, where hundreds of bodies of suspected COVID victims were found buried in shallow graves by the river over the past fortnight. These sacred saffron shrouds, the only visual markers at these mass graves, now being removed, along with bamboo sticks used to draw a boundary around the graves, making them virtually invisible. Opposition parties have claimed the Adityanath government is trying to erase evidence of a large number of deaths across rural UP due to COVID since April this year. Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi Vadra tweeted a 20-second video from Prayagraj, asking why even shrouds were being removed from the bodies.
सच मैं फिर से कहता हूं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी को अपने नकली इमेज की चिंता है, आदरणीय योगी जी को भी, आदरणीय मोदी जी को भी।
यही इनकी साजिश है, यही कांग्रेस वालों को, विदेशी मीडिया वालों को लेकर के साजिश है, इंडिया को बदनाम करने के लिए।
In the past month, a vast number of shallow graves have been found by the Ganga near UP towns like Unnao, Kanpur, Balia, Varanasi and Prayagraj. In Balia, bodies were spotted floating in the river too. In all these places, there is no official record of who these people are. Buried in the sand or floating in the river, denied dignity, even in their deaths. With Nitin Gupta in Prayagraj, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Now, it's been the worst hit state during the pandemic, but now cases in some districts of Maharashtra are coming down. With that, there is now growing pressure to unlock the cities where positivity rate has dipped. So will cities like Mumbai see some relaxations come the 1st of June? Purva Chitnis tries to find out.
Kanji Ravaria has an art and craft shop in Mumbai. As shops are closed, his business is down. His products are now getting damaged. But he says he has to pay an EMI, rent and 4 employees.
EMI है, स्कूलों का खर्चा है, टैक्स भरना पड़ता है, GST है। मेरी दुकान पे 4 से 5 स्टाफ काम करते हैं, तो अभी सब घर पे है और सब इतने लोग नहीं है कि जो घर का खर्चा निकाल सके।
In Mumbai, for past 2 months, 3.5 lakh shops are closed. And with cases down, pressure's up to reopen. Retailers say they have lost about 70,000 crores in business.
करीबन 13 लाख दुकानदारें बंद है, करीबन 4 आदमी पकड़े तो 50 लाख जो रोजगार है वो तकलीफ में है। उसकी फैमिली को गिने तो करीबन 2 करोड़ लोग महाराष्ट्र में आज उनके पास पैसे नहीं है घर चलाने के लिए।
On June 1, more relaxations are expected for the state.
लॉकडाऊनच्या बाबतीत माननीय मुख्यमंत्री महोदय, उपमुख्यमंत्री महोदय आणि कॅबिनेटच्या स्तरावर कदाचित गुरुवारी चर्चा होईल.
But according to the government sources, there are 18 districts in green zone which will get phase-wise relaxations. Positivity of the district should be less than 5%. Mumbai has a positivity rate of 4.8%. Shops, hotels, restaurants will be allowed to open at staggered timings. Government not in favor of opening local trains, religious places and allow political and social gatherings. Remaining 18 districts are red zone districts where relaxations are unlikely. Maharashtra has a positivity rate of 12% but a recovery rate of 93%. Many districts are seeing a decline in the number of cases and hence the government wants to now focus on an unbroken economy. In Mumbai with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
The islands of Lakshadweep are at the center of a social media and letter storm against Administrator Praful Patel, a former Gujarat Minister of State for Home under the then Chief Minister Narendra Modi, who was appointed Administrator for Lakshadweep just 6 months ago.
Amid a social media storm over Lakshadweep, elected representatives from Kerala of CPIM and the Congress have written to the President, Prime Minister, Home Minister, accusing the Lakshadweep administrator and former Minister of State for Home of Gujarat, Praful Patel, of making unilateral decisions, from implementing a draconian Gunda Act to draft orders that parliamentarians allege aim to tamper with the livelihood and tradition of Lakshadweep, including beef consumption.
Under the disguise of Animal Preservation Act, what they are trying to implement, what he is trying to implement is the what I should eat, what I should not eat. That in this Animal Preservation Act is mentioning only 3 animals, that is cow, bull and buffalo.
From zero COVID-19 cases during the first wave of the pandemic to now among those with high test positivity rates. Those living in Lakshadweep say they are upset about how quarantine rules for those entering Lakshadweep were relaxed and allege unilateral decision.
Immediately after Mr. Praful Patel taking the charge of Lakshadweep administration, the first thing what he did was he unilaterally decided to relax the standard operating procedure. In that we vehemently opposed on only one condition. We also wanted to have economic development. We also supported for the economic development. All those things, entire people of Lakshadweep agreed for that. Provided we requested him to restore the quarantine system which is implemented in the previous SOP.
The BJP has rubbished the allegations as vested interests.
But these are the hate campaigns which the Congress party, toolkit campaign which the Congress party and CPM party and the radical Islamic, or that point we are discussing.
Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
And finally, here's an incredible story of a Canadian Sikh gentleman, Nav Bhatia, who became the first and the only fan to be inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. NBA gave him the special distinction for his unrelenting loyalty towards Toronto Raptors ever since it was founded in 1995.
Sir, tell us your reaction when it happened. In fact, this year, when late Kobe Bryant was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, it was the same event in which you were also present, perhaps in a separate place, but you too were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
It was a very, I was speechless. And, when they took me to my gallery after we did the ribbon cutting of the gallery, because this is the first year of the Superfan Gallery, and with God's grace, with Babaji's mirror, I'm the first one to be honored there. So when they took me to my gallery and showed my gallery, and there was my jersey, the original jersey, Superfan jersey was there, and my ring, replica of my ring was there, and then there was a basketball, and then my chair, which I use in the arena, was there, and then the most touching thing,
the turban
was there.
Now, you were born and brought up in New Delhi instead of cricket. How come basketball interested you and in fact made you even stay away from your family?
I'm not a super fan at home. My wife, I have missed her wedding anniversaries. I have missed her birthdays and a lot of other events with our relatives. So I'm not a super fan at home. My marriage is just hanging by very thin strings.
Well, that's a wrap on this bulletin from the entire team. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.